She took her best friend on a trip I paid for, but I booked the same hotel. They say if something feels off, it probably is. I learned that the hard way after I bought the plane tickets, paid for the hotel, and gave her spending money for a girls-only work retreat. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. She told me it was a quick getaway, 2 nights at a beachside resort a few hours away. She said it was for her job, some kind of corporate bonding with a few other women from the office. She mentioned her best friend was going too, someone I knew well enough to believe the story. It all sounded harmless. She even seemed a little reluctant to go, like she'd rather stay home with me. I almost told her to skip it. Almost. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled, wished her a relaxing trip, and even dropped her off at the airport. I watched her walk into the terminal with her carry-on, hugged her goodbye, and kissed her like a fool who thought love was enough. She waved as she turned the corner. That was the last honest moment we shared. It wasn't until the next day that my instincts started clawing at me. She hadn't been texting much. Normally, even on work trips, she'd send photos, her breakfast, the view, a selfie with her best friend making goofy faces. But this time? Nothing. Just a couple of dry, everything's good messages. No emojis. No warmth. Just distance. I told myself not to panic. Not to assume. But my mind wouldn't settle. And then something strange happened. I got a text from a buddy who works at the same airline I booked her flight through. He wasn't prying, just casual. Said, "Hey, saw your girl checking in yesterday with some dude. Looked like they were heading somewhere nice. Didn't know she had a brother. She doesn't. Not one she travels with, anyway." I stared at my phone for a long time, reading that message over and over. My heart wasn't racing, it was sinking. Slowly. Like it already knew the truth and was just waiting for my brain to catch up. That night, I couldn't sleep. I scrolled through her social media looking for clues. Nothing new. No posts. No stories. Her best friend had posted a single group photo from a bar, but my girlfriend wasn't in it. I checked again. And again. She'd said they'd be spending the whole weekend together. So where was she? Something snapped inside me. I pulled up the hotel confirmation I had paid for and looked at the address. I stared at it for a few seconds, then opened another tab and booked myself a room in the same hotel. Same dates. Same place. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't pack much. Just enough to blend in. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't even sure what I'd do when I got there. All I knew was I had to see it with my own eyes. The next morning, I was on the road before the sun came up. I made the drive in silence, no music, just the hum of the engine and my thoughts. The closer I got, the more I rehearsed what I might say. But deep down, I wasn't thinking about confrontation. I was thinking about confirmation. Proof. Closure. I pulled into the hotel parking lot around noon. It was beautiful, just like the pictures. Palm trees swaying, white sand beaches, couples walking hand in hand. I checked in under a different name just to be safe. The front desk didn't ask any questions. They handed me my key card and smiled like they had no idea my heart was splitting in half. I walked past the lobby bar and out toward the pool area, pretending to take in the sights like a regular guest. And that's when I saw her. She wasn't alone. She was by the pool, lounging in the sun with a man I'd never seen before. He leaned in close, whispering something in her ear that made her laugh. Not polite laughter. The kind of laugh that belongs to someone comfortable, intimate. Like she had forgotten everything she left behind. Like I didn't exist. I froze. The world around me blurred. For a second, I forgot where I was. What I was doing. All I could see was them. Her hand on his knee. His sunglasses tilted back as he looked at her like she was the only woman on earth. It was like watching a movie. Except I was the idiot in the audience who didn't realize he was the joke. I stepped back, ducked behind a nearby cabana and pulled out my phone. I took a photo. Then another. Not to post. Not to send. Just to remember. To burn it into my memory so I'd never again second-guess myself when something didn't feel right. Then I turned and walked back toward the elevators. My hands were shaking, but my mind had never been clearer. She wasn't on a girls' trip. She wasn't with her best friend. And she sure as hell wasn't coming back to the same man she'd left behind. I sat alone in my hotel room with the curtains half drawn and the cold buzz of the air conditioner filling the silence. The image of her by the pool with him wouldn't leave my head. Every time I blinked, it was there again, her sun-kissed smile, his hand on her thigh, the effortless way they moved together like this wasn't a weekend mistake but something they'd done before. I stared at the photos on my phone, zooming in, looking at the smallest details. The necklace she wore, the one I gave her last year for her birthday, was now just a background prop in someone else's romance. It's strange how quickly love can shift from something sacred to something disposable. A week ago, I would have said we were solid. Sure, we had our arguments like anyone else. Sure, she'd been a little distant lately. But I never thought I'd be sitting alone in a hotel room I paid for, watching the woman I loved flirt with another man like I never existed. For hours I did nothing. I didn't call her. Didn't text. I didn't even leave the room. I just sat there playing every moment in reverse. Her asking for money for the trip. Telling me her job covered the hotel, but I insisted on helping because I wanted her to relax. Her little jokes about how I was too generous. The way she kissed me goodbye like nothing was off. It all made sense now. It wasn't just betrayal, it was planning. She had plotted this like a vacation, one she didn't have to pay for. And I funded it like a clueless sponsor, thinking I was being supportive. Later that evening, I decided I needed to see more. Not because I didn't believe what I saw, but because I wanted to know how deep it went. I left my room and walked the grounds like just another tourist. The sun was starting to set, casting long golden shadows across the beach. It was beautiful. Exactly the kind of place I thought we'd go together someday. A honeymoon destination. The kind of setting I used to dream about when I imagined proposing. And now it was just the backdrop for the biggest lie I'd ever lived through. Eventually, I saw them again on the beach this time, sitting on a blanket, sharing a bottle of wine. She was wearing the sundress I picked out for her on a spontaneous shopping trip last summer. Back then, she twirled in the mirror and said it made her feel beautiful. Now she wore it for someone else. I watched from a distance, staying low by the dunes. I wasn't trying to confront them yet. I wasn't even sure if I ever would. I just needed to witness it. Fully. Without doubt. I needed the truth to be complete. I saw them kiss. Slow. Long. The kind of kiss you give someone when the world fades around you. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. If pain was the price of closure, I was willing to pay in full. They eventually stood up and walked toward the resort together, arms wrapped around each other like they'd done this before many times. This wasn't new. It wasn't spontaneous passion. This was routine. Comfortable. Practiced. That realization hit harder than anything else. Not only had she lied, but she had been lying for longer than I dared imagine. I wasn't just an afterthought, I had been her cover story. I went back to my room, heart numb, head spinning. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed with the TV on mute, watching the flicker of infomercials while my thoughts ran wild. I imagined all the nights she claimed to be working late. All the girl dinners and family things she said she had to attend alone. How many times had she smiled at me after coming back from being with him? How many times did I hold her close while she was wishing she was somewhere else with someone else? The next morning, I decided I couldn't just keep watching. I had seen enough. I had the photos, the proof, the truth. But something inside me wouldn't rest until I looked her in the eyes. Not to scream. Not to break things. Just to ask one question. Why? I waited near the breakfast buffet. Casual. Calm. Just another guest with a cup of coffee. I watched as they walked in hand, like they were untouchable. She looked happy. Genuinely happy. That part made me sick. She scanned the room and then she saw me. Our eyes locked and everything in her face changed. The color drained. Her jaw clenched. She froze mid-step like someone had punched the wind out of her. She let go of his hand. He turned to her, confused, saying something I couldn't hear. She didn't respond. Just stood there staring at me like a ghost had appeared at her vacation. I stood up and slowly walked toward them, keeping my posture calm, composed, even though my hands were trembling with every step. I stopped a few feet away. Looked at her. Then at him. Nice trip, I said, voice low. He looked at me, then at her. Who's this? She didn't answer. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. I turned to him and said, I'm the guy who paid for your weekend together. He blinked, clearly unsure if it was a joke. She finally found her voice. I can explain. I held up my hand. Don't. I already saw everything. Silence. Other guests glanced over, sensing tension but not sure what they were witnessing. I'm not here to make a scene, I continued. I just wanted to see it with my own eyes. And now I have. She tried to step closer. I stepped back. I don't need apologies. I needed the truth. You gave me that, just not the way you intended. He finally spoke. Look, Manda. I cut him off. Save it. Enjoy the rest of the trip. You already got the best deal, luxury weekend on someone else's dime. Then I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there in the middle of the breakfast room, looking like she wanted to sink into the floor. I didn't turn back. I didn't need to. I already had everything I came for. I packed my bags and checked out within the hour. On the drive home, the strangest thing happened. I didn't feel broken. I felt free. The truth had hurt, yes. But it had also unchained me from a lie I'd been funding with my trust, my time, my love. The drive home was long, but not in the way I expected. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the steering wheel or scream into the void. I just drove mile after mile of silence, headlights slicing through the dark, the world rushing past as I left behind something that was already dead. I'd imagined this kind of heartbreak would destroy me, but instead it carved something else out of me. Something colder. Stronger. A version of myself that had stopped begging for honesty and started demanding it. Somewhere along the road, I realized I didn't feel lost anymore. I felt awake. There was clarity in the pain. The kind that strips away every illusion you've built around a person until you're left staring at the truth. She never loved me the way I loved her. And maybe she never could. When I got back to my apartment, everything was exactly how I left it. The dishes still drying on the rack. Her coffee mug on the counter. A sweater of hers draped over the back of the couch like she might walk in at any second, toss her bag down, and kiss me hello. But now I knew better. Those little pieces of her that used to feel like comfort now felt like lies left behind in fabric and glass. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed a box from the closet and started packing up everything she left. Clothes, hair products, her favorite throw blanket, everything went into the box without a second thought. It wasn't about anger. It was about removing the infection. I wasn't going to live in a museum of memories anymore. She called the next day. I didn't answer. She texted. I ignored it. Then came the emails. One after another, trying to explain, trying to shift the story. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. You don't understand. But I did understand. I understood perfectly. She planned the trip with another man, lied about who she was with, let me fund their little escape, and never once thought I'd figure it out. That wasn't a mistake. That was a pattern. A choice made over and over again in silence and secrecy. And then, a week after I got home, she showed up. I was coming back from the grocery store when I saw her car parked outside the building. She was leaning against the hood like she had every right to be there, like this was just some fight we could talk our way out of. I didn't want a scene in the parking lot, so I walked past her and unlocked the door without a word. She followed me in. The second the door closed behind her, she started crying. Not the soft, guilty tears of someone who understands what they did. These were desperate tears. Manipulative. The kind that try to break you before you can say what needs to be said. I know I messed up, she said. I was scared. I didn't know how to tell you. I turned to face her. You didn't tell me anything. You lied. Over and over. It wasn't serious. It didn't mean what you think. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You were holding hands by the pool. Drinking wine on the beach. Kissing in public. If it wasn't serious, then you've got a twisted definition of casual. She looked away. I didn't mean to hurt you. No, you just didn't care if you did. The room was quiet for a long time. She stared at the floor like it held some kind of answer. But I had no interest in watching her pretend to feel sorry. I'd already seen what she looked like when she was genuinely happy, and it wasn't with me. I want to fix this, she said finally. You can't. Please. No, I cut her off. You didn't just cheat on me. You used me. You let me pay for a weekend with someone else like I was your personal ATM. You made me a fool. I don't know what part of you thought I'd ever be okay after that, but I'm not. And I won't be. But I will be done. I handed her the box of her things and opened the door. Take this and go. We don't have anything left to talk about. She didn't move at first. Then she picked up the box, her hands trembling. She walked out slowly and I shut the door behind her before she could say another word. I locked it. Not out of fear, but finality. In the weeks that followed, I blocked her on everything. Deleted our photos. Unfollowed her family and friends. Every piece of digital thread that connected us, I cut it clean. It was harder than I expected. Not because I missed her, but because I had to mourn someone who didn't really exist. The woman I loved was just a version of her I built in my head. The real her had been slipping away for a long time. I just refused to see it. But here's the thing, pain is a teacher. And betrayal is a brutal education. I learned that love without respect is a slow death. That trust isn't something you lend without reason. And that silence when something feels off is the loudest mistake you can make. I'm not broken. I'm not bitter. I'm rebuilding. One truth at a time. It's been months now and I can finally say her name doesn't trigger anything in me. No anger. No ache. Just silence. Like a word I used to know but forgot how to pronounce. I've moved on, not in some dramatic way where I've met someone new and we're riding off into the sunset. No. I've moved on in the quiet, invisible way that really matters. The kind where I wake up and no longer check my phone for her name. The kind where I walk past couples on the street and no longer feel a hollow pang in my chest. The kind where I can finally say that what happened to me, happened for me. That trip was supposed to be a gift. A generous gesture from someone who believed in us, in her, in the story we were building together. I thought I was investing in her peace, her happiness. I didn't know I was buying a front row seat to my own humiliation. And still, I'm grateful I found out the way I did. Because what if I hadn't gone? What if I had stayed home, trusting her blindly while she wrapped her arms around someone else in a hotel suite I paid for? What if I had proposed 6 months later like I'd been planning to? What if I had married her, built a life on that shaky, dishonest foundation? The truth wrecked me in the moment, but it saved me in the long run. Sometimes people ask me how I didn't lose it. How I kept it together when I saw her with him or when she stood crying at my door begging for a second chance. I think it's because the pain was so clear, so sharp, that there was no room for confusion. It wasn't a gray area. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a straight-line betrayal. And in a way that made it easier. There was no gaslighting, no blurred lines. Just the hard, cold truth staring me in the face. Since then, I've changed. In small, invisible ways. I double-check what people say. I listen to my gut even when it whispers things I don't want to hear. I don't rush to give people access to my trust anymore. Not because I'm bitter, but because I understand now that trust is something sacred. It should be earned, not handed over like a party favor. She tried reaching out one last time a few weeks ago. Through a mutual friend. Said she still had dreams about us. Said she made a mistake. That she didn't know how good she had it until it was gone. I told the friend to deliver a message back, tell her I don't hate her. Tell her I'm not angry. But also tell her I don't care anymore. And that's the worst kind of goodbye. Because it is. Indifference is the final nail in the coffin of love. It's colder than rage, quieter than heartbreak. It's when someone no longer has the power to make you feel anything at all. That's where I am now. Not bitter. Just beyond it. I went back to that same hotel last weekend. Alone. Not because I was chasing ghosts, but because I wanted to reclaim the memory. I booked a single room overlooking the ocean, the same view she enjoyed with him. I sat on the balcony with a coffee in hand and let the waves do what they do best, wash away everything that doesn't belong. And in that moment I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Peace. Not the kind you force. Not the kind you fake to show the world you're fine. The real kind. The kind that wraps around you in silence and says, you're okay now. You're free. That's what healing looks like. It's not always fireworks or a triumphant return. Sometimes it's just sitting in the same place where everything fell apart and realizing it doesn't hurt anymore. Realizing you've outgrown the pain. Realizing you've changed in ways no one else can see, but you feel every single day. So here's what I'll say to anyone who's been there. Anyone who's had their heart ripped out by someone they loved, trusted, believed in. Don't chase closure. Don't wait for an apology. Don't waste your energy trying to make someone understand the damage they caused. Just walk. Walk with your head high and your heart open, even if it's bruised. You don't owe your pain to anyone who didn't care to protect it. You'll heal. It'll take time. Maybe longer than you think. But one day you'll wake up and realize you didn't think about them yesterday. And then the day after that. And then a week will pass and you won't remember what their voice sounds like. That's how you'll know it's over. Not just the relationship, but their power over you. And when you get there, when the silence becomes your sanctuary instead of your prison, I hope you remember this: you didn't lose them. You lost someone who was never truly yours to begin with. But they lost you. If this story hit you somewhere deep, if it felt familiar, if it reminded you of something you've lived through, drop a comment. Share your truth. Let someone else know they're not alone. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. There are more stories on the way. Real ones. Raw ones. The kind that remind you you're not broken, you're rebuilding.